We've reached the college football playoff semifinals, and kind of regardless of what you think about how the rest of the playoffs went, at least we had some excitement last week. We didn't get you any picks last week, took a little bit of a holiday break, but we're excited to be back. We're going to talk about these two college football games and dive right in. Y'all have any overall thoughts on this college football structure besides the typical obviously the seedings need to get fixed at the very least going into future years?
I mean, to me, I think it's still hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that Penn State and Notre Dame are in the semifinals. I don't think going into the season, I didn't believe much in either of these teams. I know you were on Penn State a bit, Eric, when we started, but and then Oregon was able to do whatever they wanted at Penn State. Ohio State was able to take care of business there after going down early. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to be like, yeah. But then again, the SEC, there was so much inconsistency there. But it is still surprising to me that there's like just Texas from the SEC left, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Some
I don't know. I mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do think that the SEC of old is kind of coming to an end. In the NIL era, I mean, it was, you go to the SEC and you have depth and depth and depth for days, and those depth guys are tired of sitting now.
Yep.
So I don't know. I do think that the SEC will continue to have, 3 and 4 playoff bids every year, but I don't know if the SEC having that hardcore elite team every year is going to happen anymore at this point. So I don't know. They have to fix the seeding, like the first round. I mean, and a lot of the second round was crazy boring football, unfortunately. So they have to fix that. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. Let's do 16 teams here.
Some talking head was very angry that, and I think he's absolutely right. I just disagree with him that I forgot who this was, but essentially he had a really good point that we are crowning the best team in the playoffs who plays the best and all at this time of year. We are not crowning essentially the best overall team in college football for the season.
But that's NFL.
That's the NFL, hands down.
That's what I'm saying. Is I'm all about
every
that.
Sport. It's every sport in America.
You make it in. You got to have a shot to win it, and that's the point of having playoffs. So
otherwise, do what they do in soccer and just have it based on like play everyone twice. And maybe we get there with just like the Big Ten SEC convergence one day. But I am excited though. I am excited because we've at least had a lot more to talk about. Like these games are more interesting than what we used to get with bowl games. Even when bowl games meant something, this is still more fun. There's a lot more on the line. So like, I don't want to just be like sad. The playoffs aren't what we hoped for. But
that Texas Arizona State game was awesome.
Dude, that was a wild game.
Awesome.
What has been y'all's biggest surprise in the playoffs at this point?
I think
Will
Arizona
Howard.
State.
Will Howard. That's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah, I think I have two. One, Arizona State should have beat Texas. That whole field goal that bounced off the turf and went in, and it should have counted. Kind of a wild
the
thing.
Non-targeting call.
Yeah, so I think Arizona State should have beat Texas. That's crazy. I don't know if State's surprised. You guys told me when we were texting. I am shocked Oregon got stomped like that. I did not expect that type of loss from Oregon.
Jordan James injury and Evan Stewart not being able to go. If you remember that first game, Evan Stewart lit them up down the field all game. He wasn't there. So that was a huge problem. And Ohio State started blitzing the shit out of it. Like they were just going. And we just didn't recover. We didn't react near quick enough. But that was shocking to me too. Just that we didn't show up ready to play. That
was wild. Otherwise, like obviously some disappointing early games, but there's been some fun stuff, which leads us to this weekend. I think we have a couple pretty great games here. You can tell by the lines here. These are expected to be much tighter games by much more equal teams coming into this week. Let's start with Notre Dame versus Penn State in the it's not the Fiesta Bowl. It
The
is
Orange
Fiesta
Bowl, right?
The Orange Bowl.
The
Thank
Orange
you.
Bowl,
In
yeah.
the Orange Bowl. The other one's the Cotton Bowl. I lost it. So the Orange Bowl. All right. Let's just talk about this game, and we'll give our picks as we go through it. Stefan, why don't you start with how you think this game is going to go, and tell us what you got?
Well, so I mentioned like Penn State's 2 losses already. You know, the Oregon loss and the Ohio State loss before that. Those are really respectable teams. Their only losses coming to playoff teams. Meanwhile, Notre Dame, you know, they took care of business, but like, what are their best wins here? You know, like, who are we most impressed with them winning? I know that they have been playing well. I just get nervous if I'm a Notre Dame backer because so much of it is reliant on what I think is an unpredictable stat in that, like, turnovers. Like, I don't know how much that translates over to a team like Penn State, where they have 2 really, really good running backs who take care of the football, who have been around a couple years now. They've got Drew Allar, who you know, is prone to making mistakes. Part of the reason the Penn State lost to Oregon was a pick that he threw, but he is so athletic. To me, the difference in this game is Andy Kotelenki for the offensive coordinator for Penn State coming over from Kansas, and you can just see how explosive he can turn players into, like Warren. So I'm on Penn State plus 2.5. I'm not going to go out and take them on the money line, although I think that's going to happen. I'm fine with just like minus 110. Give me those 2 points just in case I'm wrong, because I do think this is going to be a pretty close game. I also lean under. I think the way both these teams are going to want to play is line up and just try to run the football.
Yep.
Don't make any mistakes.
Totally.
I mean, Notre Dame, if they don't get those turnovers, they don't get those 17 points. What are we talking like in like how? I mean, Mike, you might still be having like 30-second flashback terror dreams. But if that doesn't happen, you know, so give me the under, give me Penn State plus 2.5, and then a little player prop. Give me Drew Allar over 10.5 rushing yards. I know that number sounds really, really low. I agree. Just remember, in college football, sacks count against your quarterback's rushing yards. So we could start the game with a 25-yard run, but that doesn't mean we're in the clear just yet. So those are my 3 plays for this game. But I do think Penn State wins in a pretty low-scoring game, but I'm just going to take the 2.5 points.
I love those. Mike, why don't you talk about your take on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I see it very similarly. My only play here is teasing it and going under 52 points with Penn State plus 7.5 points at minus 125. Yeah, man, I've been fading Penn State and Notre Dame all year. Of course, they end up playing each other now. I think these 2 teams are almost identical in a lot of ways, man. They're just going to want to slow it down. They're going to want to run the football. Neither quarterback can drop back and pick you apart. They're only going to be as good as their running game is, and they can both run when they have to. I mean, Riley Leonard just absolutely ran all over Georgia. The second time in Kirby Smart's career that I've said that he was outcoached. Marcus Freeman showed up as much as anybody else did on that entire field that game. And so with Penn State's woes going to one side, or with James Franklin woes in big games, going to one side or the other, I've been really hesitant on. So that's why I'm taking plus 7.5, because I think this is a field goal game, no matter who wins it. And I don't see this being a ton of points in this game. None of these teams have hit 52 points in any of the playoff games to this point. And now they're both playing their strongest defense that they've played all year. So I like this to stay a low scoring game, and I like it to be really tight.
Yeah, we have a real narrow needle to thread here with this game, but all of our picks, I think, have potential to actually hit that if you decide to go with all of them. I'm not bringing any advanced analytics or anything. The only number I need is that James Franklin is 3-19 against top 10 teams at Penn State. 2 of those wins came in 2016 and 2018 against Ohio State and Wisconsin. I would hope you at some point beat a conference opponent, which is great. Sorry, Mike. The other one was 2022 against Utah, was the last time he did this in the Rose Bowl. Dude, I'm just betting against the record, man. This dude is the Bob Stoops, the modern Bob Stoops, as far as winning big games goes. I'm honestly, I'm just so impressed with Marcus Freeman and what they did to Georgia. I don't care as a backup quarterback, just the absolute dominant game that they put together against Georgia that I did not expect that Notre Dame could do to a top team. So I just think this is a step up in competition for Penn State from their first 2 playoff games. And it's going to be a tough out. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win money line. So that's a teased number at -118. And that's it.
Yeah. My only concern about Notre Dame there, like I felt as watching them against Georgia, I felt like Georgia beat them on the field. I think Notre Dame finished the game with only like 240 yards of offense. Georgia won outside of that 90 seconds. And to me, it was Marcus Freeman. It just that last drive where Kirby refused to call a timeout. You can ask Kelsey. I was running through a wall over here. Just call the freaking timeout and they punt, man. Like it's that simple.
Spoken like a true Georgia fan. We really won that game.
I mean, just go look at the stats. We did win on everything except the scoreboard.
I am. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. James Franklin gets a lot of shit on this show. He wasn't favored in the vast majority of those games that you're talking about. So so he often performs to where he's supposed to. But to your point, Penn State is an underdog in this game too.
And he's not favored. He's not favored in this game. Yeah.
So it doesn't really negate that point. But it's not like we think James Franklin doesn't deserve to be the coach at Penn State.
No, man, like that.
But I also don't think he's a national championship coach. Yeah. Like to me, that if Penn State wins this whole damn thing, it's gonna feel gross.
Dude, look, I hate 3 of the teams left in this playoff, and I am still pulling for Notre Dame as much as I hate them. So come on.
Wow,
love it. Let's move on to the Cotton Bowl. We got Ohio State I'm gonna actually say Ohio State at Texas because this is at the Cotton Bowl. This is a home game.
Fair.
I'm sure Ohio State fans will show up, so I'm sure it won't feel as much like that. But as far as like the amount of travel and all the stuff that goes with it, probably pretty cold down there, though this time of year might have a little bit of weather. Let's jump in. We all 3 agree on the pick on the spread, but Mike, why don't you kick off this one with your take on this game?
Dude, Ohio State has just looked – we've talked a lot all year about how we feel like there hasn't been an elite team. And Ohio State just told us to shut the hell up. Like the last 2 weeks in the playoffs, they've done what they wanted to do, when they wanted to do it, however they wanted to do it. And Texas, man, they just have looked unconvincing kind of all year. They showed up at times, but like you saw them against Arizona State, they should have lost that game. They struggled against Vandy. They've lost to Georgia twice, and Georgia's clearly ended up not being that convincing of a team. And I just think Texas is outmatched here. So I'm going Ohio State -6. I'm also taking the Ohio State team total over 29.5 points. I think the only way Texas has a chance to stay into this is if they score 38, 35, and I just don't see a world in which that can even remotely happen.
I was not impressed with Quinn Ewers last week necessarily against Arizona State. I thought Cam Scatterby, which we did not mention yet, that was outside of Vince Young in the Rose Bowl back in, the mid 2000s. Cam Scatterby might have put together the best postseason performance I've ever seen in college football.
Question.
I don't think that's an exaggeration, man. It was insane. But anyways, Texas still letting Arizona State even make that a game, I think points to Ohio State being dominant. I'm on the -6 as well, or honestly, all the way up to a touchdown. I don't think it's going to change much from that, but I'm on this too. That's my only pick for this game. Stefan, would you like to tell us why you agree with us?
Yeah, and I'm also laddering this a couple ways. I'll be going to 9.5. I'll be going to 13.5. Nice. Because if this gets out of hand, it could get really, really out of hand.
Yep.
What makes us think that Texas's offensive line has been good, but there have been games where they cannot run the football at all. Case in point, last week against Arizona State. I think that this Ohio State team is by far the best defense they're going to have faced this year. And I know that they play in the SEC. Ohio State's defense is one of the best defenses in the entire country. Yep. They have not given up more than 17 points, like outside of their loss to Oregon. So unless you think Texas is going to show up like Oregon did, which I don't think is going to happen. And I'm talking about Oregon like way back when, not last week.
The good one, yeah.
I just don't see it happening. So let's throw out, like we talked about it after the game. Ohio State played better than Oregon that game when Oregon won. Oregon got lucky with an onside kick and the fact that there wasn't half a second left on the clock,
And they had 12 men on the field.
Hey, that was not luck. That part was actually planned. That's just good coaching, sir. So to me, Ohio State is worlds better here. But it is a playoff game. It is, like you said, in Texas. Also, by the way, the fact that the 5 seed got the path that they did and Texas is playing a home game practically is absolutely embarrassing for this playoff structure. Anyway,
it's bad.
Give me Ohio State. I also want the team total over 29. Oh, no, that was yours. Sorry. I'm taking the Texas team total under 23.5. Texas struggles to score at times. Yep. They are one of the worst red zone efficiency scoring teams. And as Eric will happily tell you, their kicking game is not great. Mr. Auburn's not even able to get laid in Austin anymore. So
Brent Auburn has kicking going for him, and that's it. That dude has missed his last field goal. He is done, my friend, getting any more action in the city of Austin.
So that's where I'm at. I'm gonna go for the show officially. I'm going Ohio State -6 and the Texas team total under 23.5. But I will be doing some laddering as well.
Love it. Let's wrap this up. We got 2 games to go through. Before we do, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, download the podcast, do all the positive things, Instagram, TikTok, all of that stuff. Let's just go ahead and, Mike, why don't you run us through all your picks for both games, and then we'll go Stefan and myself.
Yeah, we'll start in the Notre Dame-Penn State game. I'm taking a teaser of the game total under 52 points with Penn State at plus 7.5 points, -125. Then moving over to Ohio State and Texas, give me Ohio State -6 and also give me the Ohio State team total over 29.5 points.
Wonderful. All right. I'll take Penn State plus 2.5, and I'll take the under 45 in that game, as well as Drew Aller over 10.5 rush yards. I'm also on Ohio State -6 and Texas team total under 23.5. There's a little bit of juice set up right there at -120, but that is okay.
I'll give you the boring picks. I'm on Notre Dame to win this sucker straight up at -118, and then Ohio State to cover that spread and some. I'm going to join Steph on that ladder. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Go check out our NFL playoff show. We got NFL playoffs happening too. We will see y'all over there.